Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is the LPOV, and we're back with another week of Jojo's Bizarre Adventure, Part 4 Diamond is Unbreakable. Episode 3. Huh. Now, with Episode 3, I have a couple of mixed reactions. However, as we go through the overview, I'll most likely put it towards the end, where my whole reasoning as to why I didn't enjoy the episode completely. Um, but first, let me just dive into the whole overview. First, let's review what happened in this episode because there's a ton of content that happened again. We start off with with Angelo being interrogated by Josuke and Jotaro, of course. He, but this time he's merged with the rock already. Josuke merged him with the Angelo rock, so to say, and they're interrogating him. Not because they were going to interrogate him from the beginning, but it was more because he brought up like the guy that gave me my stand is going to find you. He's not gonna have any of this, and that's what caught their attention. And just that phrase, the guy who gave me my stance, that already was enough to grab the attention of Jotaro, because if we recall, and this gets brought up later. If we recall, we originally started with the first two parts, and they revolved around the Stone Mask and Hamon energy, and from Stardust Crusaders, all of a sudden, like, stands happened. So Angelo, he tells us his story. He was in the prison cell. This guy comes up with shoots him with an arrow through the mouth. Um, Angelo, almost unconscious, like starts to regain his life, and the guy tells him like, "Oh, so you managed to survive." So, okay, so apparently, long story short, is basically the people who survive being touched or shot by the arrow um, have the ability to gain a stand, and that's what happened with Angelo. He survived the shot, and his stand aqua necklace awoke from it, and that's where things get a little bit interesting because the guy says it gives him the explanation of like, yeah, like many people have been doing this, like, and he brings up the Dio's name throughout the conversation, and obviously, um, having fought Dio himself, Jotaro, like, that catches Jotaro's attention completely. um, so then, as he's telling the story, this asshole Angelo, just to continue proving that he's not all just like typical villainy. Like, there's a little bit of strategy involved to his actions. As he's telling the story, like, he uses the advantage to use Aqua Necklace that's strapped in the plastic glove that Josuke put him in. He uses the glove to try and strangle a kid, and yes, this is where I would say the first plot hole would arise. But for that, I'll talk about that in the end of the video. But basically, Angelo tries to choke the kid, and Josuke just gets really cocky. He's like, man, I wasn't angry enough earlier with you, and that's when Angelo says the magic words like, stop touching your stupid hair, and Josuke loses it. Fun little fact about that, Josuke's like that shot of Josuke with like the star, like him being hitting his nerve system, like being irritated. That's almost a perfect replication of the manga panel where Josuke like gets like it hits him. Those words. um, so then Jotaro is like, yo, Josuke, like, calm yourself down. Like, he wanted to interrogate him more, and Josuke, like, he just loses it. He talks shit about his hair. What are you gonna do about it? So Josuke just loses it, and he just completely, like, despite Angelo really being merged with a rock, he like deforms him, and this is kind of like a weird element for me because he doesn't. He says Josuke says that he doesn't kill him, but then what is Angelo? Technically, Aqua Necklace should still work, and for some reason he stopped working, which is kind of like the issue that I kind of have. Like, his consciousness was like he lost his consciousness, but he was still in the rock, or like, that's something I don't understand too well. Um, So we transition slowly over to Jotaro having more of like a monologue, asking himself like, yeah, like there's been some sketchy stuff going on, and like I think Josuke, Jotaro at least, he was going to leave Morio after he dealt with Angelo and with Josuke about the inheritance, but now that he understands that there's more to it than that, then he feels like he needs to stay. So he then talks about like these papers that the Speedwagon Foundation has found, and in between them, I don't know if it was in the beginning or in towards the end, but in between them, there's a picture of Enyaba, like the old lady from Part 3, who was often with Dio, and her holding an arrow, um, and and someone in the Speedwagon Foundation got a picture of that, and that's where where Jotaro's motivations starts to stay in Morio, whatever you want to call it, and so yeah, that's basically the freaking sketchy part. To which we transition over to a part that wasn't really in the manga, which was a little bit extra footage that they put in between. Not really filler, but it fitted well with the video, with the episode. And that's Koichi in school, after school. Yeah, just being worried about our entire situation. Like Jotaro warned us, something's up in this town. We gotta be careful. And then Josuke's grandfather passes away. Like this, and all the murders that's been going on. Like Morio, whatever you want to call it. It's not a safe place to stay. Josuke picks him up. He's like, "Yo, let's go home." And as they're walking home, they pass the Angelo Rock, which is it was in the manga. It was good. Here, it was really well done. Like it just like, "Yo, Angelo, like what up?" Like, and Koichi not understanding that that's actually the murderer immersed into that rock. It was pretty good. Um, and then we noticed the house that we like, for those who were paying attention, who like last episode when Koichi is having his monologue, and he like tells himself like, "Oh, I'm not gonna bother Yosuke." He passes by this weird house, um, and that's what happens right now as well. Like Koichi passes by that house again, and he's like, "Hey, like Josuke, do you know if anyone's living here?" Because he felt someone watching, and Josuke's like, "No, like I live right up there, like around the block. Like I didn't see anyone move in there." And then you see like the shadow from like the window, and Koichi like gets really curious and weirded out, and he's like, "No, there's someone in there." So he like peeks into it through like throughout the gate, and he notices like those shoes, like the clean like school shoes, and the fuck, man. We get introduced to our first villain of this little part, and that is the Okuyasu Nijimura, and he is like pissed. He's like, "Yo, why are you being such an ass? Like entering my house? I'm not gonna let you off like that." Um, and he traps Koichi basically in that position. From that point on, like Josuke just gets pissed, and we transition over to a different place, which is Jotaro meets Tomoko, Josuke's mom. Little scene. Something in between that I want to put is just in the previous part, in part 3, Stardust Crusaders, we had this little transition in between where you would see like the stats and their ability and sometimes their host, and I like that they're doing something a little bit different now, and which is more suited for this part, and that is they're giving like landmarks of Morayo, yeah, landmarks of Morayo, and they're showing them off, like the Angelo Rock. They're showing it off with information, and I have a feeling that it's going to continue throughout this entire part 4, and they're going to do that with multiple places, like places we'll visit eventually. I like that. So back to Tomoko meets Jotaro. Jotaro is just seeking Josuke at that point. He just wants to knock on the door. He's like, "Yo, is Josuke home?" And upon the meeting, of course, Tomoko, sees Joseph in Jotaro, and she thinks that it's him, and she like gets really cuddly and like, no, I miss you, I love you, and all that shit. Um, it was a pretty fun scene. Quick little note. This actually happened at the end of the conclusion of what's going to happen next episode. So this was actually added in before. No, actually, this was added, if I'm not mistaken, after at the very end. This was in the manga. This was at the very end of this episode, actually. So they just sprinkled it in between, I guess, to transition over or to prep the people to what's coming, and that is, of course, the arrow. Angelo spoke about the arrow. Angelo spoke about the guy like shooting him with the arrow, giving him a stand. Koichi, who by this time is trapped by Okuyasu, who has his foot against the gate and has Koichi's like neck in between. Um, Koichi just gets shot out of nowhere from that person that he saw looking out to him from the window, and he gets shot like in the neck. It catches Josuke off guard. He is pissed. Koichi looks like he's about to die, and even the guy behind the window, in shady window, like you can't really see his face. He's like, "Yo, it's a shame. I thought I could make a stand user out of him." And he informs Okuyasu that is Josuke, the guy who beat Angelo. So Okuyasu feels intimidated. He feels angry. He's like, "Yo, like, oh, so you're the guy?" So then we get introduced to Okuyasu's stand, the hand. I'll fanboy about him later at the end of the video. But yes, Okuyasu's stand, the hand. He shows up. This blue humanoid type of stand, pretty cool. We get this beautiful introduction to the battle where they look at each other like Okuyasu and Josuke, and you have this really nice shot of Josuke pissed and like, you know, Okuyasu like kind of sticking his tongue out. Like that was beautiful. That was a direct copy from the manga as well, which is pretty cool. Throughout the fight, as the fight starts, we get informed that Okuyasu stand. You could tell as a viewer that Okuyasu is a dumb guy, and his stand is actually pretty slow because Yosuke can always react faster than him. However, Josuke notices that Okuyasu is really confident, like he really wants to touch him with his right palm, with his right hand, and he notices something really strange on that. So as he's going to punch him, and it was gonna be like a trade of blows. Josuke instead decides to grab his hand with Crazy Diamond, and like he gets punched by the left hand, he gets kicked by his left knee, and like nothing's happening other than Josuke getting hit. So like Josuke already understands like something's going on. We then come to understand that whatever Okuyasu's right hand stand, whatever his stand, right hand touches, disappears. Pretty OP, no lie. Oh my god. So this makes it in a way rather scary, because imagine like if he could just swipe like this part of the arm, he would have just cut your arm off. And I'm not even talking about like you can attach it back. No, like this chunk would be out. Pretty scary. Josuke decides to make some space between him and Okuyasu because he feels that would be the best strategic plan. Okuyasu tells him like, "Fuck you! Like you think that's your way out?" He can swipe space. Oh my god! So he swipes space, and he cuts the space between him and Josuke off, deletes it basically, and so Josuke ends up right next to him, and Okuyasu just punches him. He punches him all the way back to the wall. He deletes space again. Josuke comes back. He punches him again and again and again, and it's a blowback, 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 until at one point he's like, "Fuck this! I'm using my right hand. You're getting swiped out of here." And Josuke's like, "Wow, you're pretty stupid, aren't you?" And like he just bows down, and like the pots behind him come flying towards his head and like knock him out. Um, Okuyasu gets knocked out by flower pots because he cut the space between him and Josuke and the wall where Josuke was standing in front of also had flower pots behind him. Josuke wants to is strangling Okuyasu. He says, "I better have him knocked off." He notices that Koishi's gone, so he enters the house himself and notices a strange figure saying like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I have to retrieve this body because like this arrow is really important to me. I have to retrieve the arrow." And that's where the episode ends. Excuse me. Pretty well episode overall. I did enjoy it. It was pretty good. A couple of minus points are the 3 points that I always bring up when it comes to anime revision, and that is the animation, pacing, and importance value of the overall plot to the overall plot. Excuse me. So animation, there were some frames, some shots that were so undetailed, um, like really lazily drawn out that I wasn't too crazy about it. I would say that the animation was 85% to my liking. Like that 15% was just like Koichi writing. If you notice, his hand is like no textures, MS Paint, practically MS Paint. However, the 85% that I did like, I absolutely loved. There are some like this part is when it comes to stylish and presentation is doing an excellent job. For example, there's this and it's possibly is that it's been in the previous two episodes as well. But when Josuke enters a fight and he's fighting someone, there's this texture overlaying between him and the antagonist, and it's like a rough texture that's visible. Like I would say about 40%, 40 to 30% maximum. And it overlays among them, and so it creates like this tense feel on the image that we're seeing. Also, little details like I mentioned towards the end of this episode, like Koichi gets dragged on, so Josuke is strangling Okuyasu because he says like, I better have this guy knocked out, otherwise he's going to come after me. And if you look closely, and as he's choking Okuyasu, as you look closely, like in the back, you see Koichi's feet like very slightly moving slowly back and forth because you can see like the brother is already taking him. I don't think we find out, by the way, who other's names is, so we'll probably get that next episode. I know who is, but you guys, anime only viewers, the pacing was pretty good. It had the typical rhythm that the previous two episodes had. One could argue that it was a bit fast. Example I want to give you is Angelo introduces us to the arrow, the stand giving arrow, and towards the end of the episode, you already see the arrow and the guy who was like shaded, like you already see his face by the end of the episode. So, question mark, you think like hold out another episode before we can introduce it? Nope, at the end of the episode you already see it. So the mystery kind of gets resolved right away. And like the Okuyasu fights, yeah, I mean, I'll talk about that at the end of this video. The value to the overall plot, well, as you recall, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 3 featured a ton of stand users, and they felt like really unique people, like, oh wow, like these are almost the few in the world that exist. However, now with the arrow showing up, we get the explanation that we are going to see more stand users because this arrow is going to be creating more, because the series would be way too short if like Josuke got a hold of the arrow and the Speedwagon Foundation took it right away and kept it safe. No, there's shit's been going down, I can tell you that. So yes, arrows, major plot point, important plot point for the story that's going to happen. And lastly, and this is going to be the spoiler section of the video that I always do. If you guys do not want to be spoiled on anything else past this episode, then please hit the like button, comment, subscribe. Thank you for watching. I'll give you 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. We're good. Okay. Spoilers. And I say spoilers because I may say spoilers in between this, but this is me reacting to Okuyasu's fight, because Okuyasu, as I mentioned before, is my third favorite secondary character. I love him as a sidekick. He is crazy good. He becomes good eventually, of course. Okuyasu looks great. He sounds great. There were some minor animation details that I didn't like too much about this episode, which is part of the 15% of the animation that I wasn't too fond of. The hands design, absolutely kick-ass. I fucking love it. Like the white and the blue. Oh my god. One of my favorite stand designs. Period. As simple as it is, one of my favorites. And the power of like erasing everything with the right hand, perfect. Arguably, he is Okuyasu is also like a knockoff, I would say, or a more practical Vanilla Ice, or ice cream, if you want to say freaking English dubs. Because Vanilla Ice's ability was to erase everything that it touches, but it was like the entire body. And with the one negative thing is that he couldn't see shit. He was in his stand, he had to hide in his stand, and like he couldn't erase everything. Okuyasu's stand is just a little bit more limited because he can only use his right hand. However, he can see what he's going to swipe at least, and if someone's gonna attack him, he can move out the fucking way. At the end of the episode, we get introduced to Keisho, Okuyasu's brother. I don't know why his hairdo, his facial, like started to remind me a lot of Polnareff. Okay, and now the next topic I want to talk about is more of a plot hole reason, which is, and I was confused when I watched the episode only because I went back to reread the manga again, and why did the flower pots hit Okuyasu at the very end? Because he swiped like 4 or 5 times, and he brought Josuke back like 4 or 5 times, and he punched him back. Why at the very end did the flower pots come? The reason is, and I found the answer, is because the anime did it differently. Originally in the manga, it was just one swipe. Josuke got fucking scared, like the hand was gonna get him, and he was like, "You're fucking stupid." Bow down, pots hit. The most logical part of it. The anime, I can understand them want to expand the episode a little bit more, create a little bit more tension of like, wow, what is Josuke gonna do now? But it created in a way some bullshit of like the pots should have gone with him the very first time that Josuke got dragged towards Okuyasu. And the last plot hole, what the fuck? Plot hole is the Jotaro, and again Jotaro's time stop. What the fuck? When Angelo gets a hold of the kid, Jotaro used fucking time stop. Get that glove out of there. You could have interrogated Angelo maybe more, and you could have stopped Josuke from beating his stupid ass. Oh my god, like, and like manga readers know like this is going to happen this entire fucking part 4. Moments where Jotaro can use time stop. I think he does use it once in a while, but like moments like these we're 3 episodes in, he could have used time stop twice already against the antagonist. He used time stop against Josuke, the protagonist. Anyway, but that's all regarding the plot holes that I found in there. If there's a reason that maybe he's not using time stop, maybe I know he hasn't been practicing too much with it, but like, come on, like even like 2-3 seconds, Jotaro's star platinum is fast enough to work in a 2-second time span. But yeah, anyway, regardless, I did enjoy the episode. Besides the little its and bits, not my favorite one, despite Okuyasu showing up. I'm curious to see next week. I'm curious to see how much content we're gonna get next week. I'm really, really curious. I absolutely love this part. Overall, the Nijimura brothers. I love that this entire part, and especially the ending. Like the ending, like pulls on my heartstrings. So thank you for watching. This is the LPOV. I do anime, manga, movie reviews. And if you like my video, please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. Comment down below. Answer any questions that I may have proposed throughout the entire overview. And I'll see you guys next week. Hopefully a little bit earlier. Bye.